Dorian reduced to a child in one punch. Caillou Dorian enters the confrontation with Retsu carrying the aura of a death row inmate who believes he has already conquered fear. He prides himself on deception, psychological manipulation, and the idea that he can destabilize any opponent before a true fight even begins. Retsu does not engage with any of that chaos. Before the clash starts, he calmly tells Dorian not to attack, explaining through tone alone that the difference in level is overwhelming. Dorian ignores the warning and commits fully. Retsu responds with a single, precisely placed strike. The punch permanently damages Dorian's brain, reducing him to a childlike mental state. The humiliation is irreversible. Dorian does not simply lose consciousness. He loses his identity as a warrior forever. Ryukayu's face crushed. Ryukayu stands as one of the highest authorities within Chinese martial arts. A master whose title represents decades of discipline, hierarchy, and earned respect. He enters the confrontation with Yujiro believing that even if he cannot win, he will at least demonstrate the dignity of a true Caillou. His posture, confidence, and composure reflect someone accustomed to being revered. Yujiro dismantles that illusion immediately. There is no prolonged exchange or strategic battle. Yujiro reads Ryu's movements effortlessly and counters with overwhelming force. Within moments, the gap in power is undeniable. The humiliation becomes permanent when Yujiro crushes Ryu's face in front of fellow masters. It is not just physical defeat, it is public destruction of legacy. Jack Hanma torn apart like prey. Jack Hanma enters his battle with Pickle believing that he has pushed the human body beyond its limits. Through extreme training, chemical enhancement, and relentless self-destruction, he has built himself into a mass of muscle designed purely for domination. Against most opponents, that physical excess is overwhelming. Pickle does not respond like a martial artist. He responds like a prehistoric predator. Jack's strikes land, but they fail to generate fear or hesitation. Pickle absorbs the damage with calm curiosity, studying Jack the way an animal evaluates prey. When Pickle retaliates, it is raw and instinctive. He grabs Jack's face and tears into his jaw with brutal force, ripping flesh without technical refinement. The humiliation is primal. Jack is not outclassed by skill, he is biologically overpowered and reduced to prey. Muhammad Ali Jr. exposed. Muhammad Ali Jr. enters the arc carrying one of the most recognizable legacies in combat sports. His boxing fundamentals are elite. His speed is sharp, and his confidence borders on certainty. He positions himself as someone capable of standing beside Baki, not beneath him. The narrative builds anticipation around their clash as if it will define the arc. When the fight finally begins, the illusion collapses instantly. Baki reads Ali Jr.'s rhythm and timing without difficulty. A single clean counter disrupts his balance, and the momentum never shifts back. There is no prolonged exchange, no dramatic comeback attempt. The humiliation becomes undeniable when Ali Jr. cannot recover on his own and requires intervention to survive. In a world driven by pride and independence, that moment erases the claim of rivalry completely. If Ali Jr.'s humiliation surprised you, hit subscribe, drop a like, and tap hype so this breakdown reaches every Baki fan who thought he was built different. Sikorski beaten before he could even prepare. Sikorski survives by intimidation. He relies on surprise attacks, environmental manipulation, and psychological pressure rather than pure technical superiority. His confidence is loud because it needs to be. He believes chaos gives him control. When Baki decides to confront him seriously, that illusion disappears immediately. There is no dramatic back-and-forth exchange. Baki closes the distance decisively and overwhelms him before Sikorski can establish rhythm or positioning. The gap in composure is visible. What makes the humiliation severe is how unceremonious it is. Sikorski is not granted the dignity of a drawn-out battle. He is beaten quickly, decisively, and without acknowledgement of threat. The predator who relied on fear is exposed as someone incapable of handling direct pressure. Jack Hanma's strength meant nothing against preparation. Jack Hanma enters his confrontation with Motobi, believing the outcome is inevitable. In previous tournaments, Motobi appeared ineffective without weapons, and Jack assumes raw strength will overpower him easily. He expects a direct collision of bodies, something he has built himself to win. Motobi refuses that dynamic entirely. This time, weapons are allowed, and he treats the encounter like a battlefield, not a sporting match. He controls distance, timing, and positioning with precision. Jack's attempts to close in are met with calculated counters and concealed attacks that accumulate damage quickly. Teeth are shattered, balance collapses, and Jack is forced into vulnerability. The humiliation is strategic. Power alone proves useless when preparation and control dictate the fight. Dopo Orochi's mastery turned into a demonstration. Dopo Orochi steps into his fight with Musashi, carrying decades of karate mastery. He has faced elite opponents before and expects a dangerous but legitimate exchange. His confidence is not arrogance, it is the certainty of experience. Musashi approaches the confrontation differently. From the opening movements, he studies Dopo's technique in real time. Every strike, feint, and shift in posture is read instantly. Dopo commits to powerful attacks, but they are stopped or redirected with minimal effort. Musashi wounds him while clearly holding back lethal intent, treating the fight like a controlled experiment rather than a struggle. The humiliation is intellectual. Dopo realizes mid-fight that he is not testing Musashi. He is being evaluated and surpassed, and there is nothing he can adjust fast enough to close the gap. Biscuit Oliva broken on his own battlefield. Biscuit Oliva defines himself through overwhelming muscle mass and absolute confidence in brute strength. He believes that if a contest is reduced to physical force, he cannot be moved, restrained, or outpowered. When he challenges Sukune under sumo conditions, he assumes the structure of the match will favor him. From the first exchange, that belief begins to collapse. Oliva punches with full commitment, only to fracture his own hand against Sukune's skull. Sukune remains stable, balanced, and unshaken. The visual contrast is immediate. When Sukune finally applies pressure, it is decisive. He crushes Oliva's ribs and drops him unconscious. The humiliation is structural and symbolic. Oliva loses in the exact type of confrontation he built his identity around. Dorian reduced from manipulator to beggar. Caillou Dorian builds his entire identity around deception. Hidden blades, hypnosis, psychological traps. He prefers breaking opponents mentally before defeating them physically. He believes unpredictability makes him untouchable. When he faces Dopo Orochi in their decisive rematch, those tools stop working. Dopo enters prepared, having already experienced Dorian's tricks once before. This time, he anticipates every hidden weapon and refuses to be drawn into psychological games. The fight becomes direct, disciplined, and merciless. Dorian's confidence erodes as his methods fail one by one. By the end, the man who once manipulated others into fear is visibly trembling. He begs for mercy. Yanagi and Sikorski powerless in a 2-on-1. Yanagi and Sikorski combine their strengths in an attempt to overwhelm Baki. Yanagi brings lethal precision with his poison-based techniques, while Sikorski relies on aggression and unpredictability. On paper, the numerical advantage should create an opportunity. In reality, it creates nothing. Baki controls distance and timing with calm precision. He does not rush or overcommit. Every attack from either opponent is read, redirected, or neutralized before it can escalate. Their coordination breaks down under pressure because Baki dictates the tempo entirely. The humiliation is not just losing a 2-on-1 exchange. It is realizing that even combined, they cannot force Baki to take them seriously. The numbers mean nothing when the gap in awareness and control is that wide. Yanagi's greatest weapon cut away in seconds. Yanagi's entire reputation rests on one defining advantage, his poisoned hand. With a single touch, He can end a fight regardless of size or strength. That threat forces opponents to hesitate, and that hesitation is what gives Yanagi control. Motoi refuses to hesitate. From the opening movement, Motoi treats the encounter as a battlefield operation rather than a duel. He closes the distance strategically and targets Yanagi's arm with intent. Before Yanagi can properly deploy his poison, Motoi severs the hand entirely. The defining weapon is gone in an instant. The humiliation is structural. Yanagi does not gradually lose control. His identity as a dangerous fighter disappears immediately. Without the poisoned hand, he is exposed as far less intimidating than his reputation suggested. Katsumi Orochi's perfect technique shattered by instinct. Katsumi Orochi dedicates himself to refining his technique beyond normal human limits. His mock punch is the result of relentless discipline, a strike so powerful that it damages his own body upon impact. He believes refinement and precision can surpass raw power. When he faces Pickle, that belief is tested brutally. Katsumi's attacks land cleanly and with maximum intent. Pickle absorbs them without visible fear or hesitation. There is no technical adjustment, no strategic retreat. Pickle survives the full impact of the mock technique without going down, then ends the fight instantly by ripping Katsumi's arms off. He doesn't eat him, he simply removes his ability to continue, proving raw dominance over refined technique. The humiliation is biological. A lifetime of refinement collapses against pure evolutionary superiority. Sikorski's hostage strategy ended with one casual blow. Sikorski attempts to regain control by taking Baki's girlfriend hostage, believing leverage will shift the balance of power. His strategy relies on intimidation and psychological pressure rather than direct confrontation. In his mind, forcing others into a defensive position restores his authority. Biscuit Oliva arrives and immediately removes that illusion. There is no negotiation, no prolonged tension. Oliva closes the distance and knocks Sikorski unconscious with a single, effortless strike. The entire scenario collapses in seconds. The humiliation is dismissive. A calculated plan meant to create fear is erased casually, proving that Sikorski's leverage was never real power to begin with. Yanagi's pride knocked out cold. After losing his poisoned hand and suffering repeated defeats, Yanagi still refuses to accept reality. His pride will not allow him to admit loss, even when the evidence is overwhelming. He clings to defiance, convincing himself that acknowledgement of defeat is worse than physical damage. Yujiro does not argue with him. He does not debate philosophy or prolong the exchange. He simply steps forward and delivers one clean, decisive punch. Yanagi is knocked unconscious instantly. The humiliation is philosophical and final. Yanagi's refusal to accept defeat does not preserve his pride. It exposes his delusion. In Baki, reality does not bend to ego. It crushes it without hesitation.